Tonight, you're going to hear more about our internal workings across many departments of what we do. But understanding no one institution can solve the challenges that individuals that are experiencing homeless face each and every day. It requires a comprehensive approach, and we have that ongoing. But tonight, we want to talk about that. But before, I also want to highlight that this team, Marilyn, Beth, Jeff, Lieutenant McClure, many of us have been having conversations with many stakeholders in our community about our efforts. So I just want you to know we're having this dialogue. We welcome this dialogue. It's very important. It's very important we address the needs, but it's also very important that we set the record straight regarding what can be done, what's happening, and some of the challenges. So I just wanted to introduce this and turn over to Marilyn to take it from here.
Thank you. Is this working?
Yes.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of council, everyone present. So I, again, as Mitch said, will be touching a little bit on what we're doing internally around addressing challenges with homelessness. And I know we've had a lot of conversation about that recently across the city and the country. So thought that this was a great time to really bring it up and speak to some of the efforts that we're doing and share some data related to it as well to speak to the impact. Let me see if the slide's working. All right, so I'll speak a little bit to how we first started. So actually, we have the external homeless task force, which you all have heard from before. We formed our internal task force in August or September of 2021 with the following departments listed. And the goal was really to look at how we're collaborating across departments to address the challenges we're seeing, right? A lot of us live downtown, a lot of us go through downtown and interact with individuals and stakeholders. And the big piece was how are we communicating across the board so that we aren't being redundant in our resources and that we are being strategic in addressing the challenges that we're seeing and holistic in the way that we do it as well. As Mitch said, we have several teammates that are here today from these departments and also can speak to some of the programs I'll be touching on today. So if you guys have questions, I welcome them at the end of our presentation. And so I will jump into the next piece of the program. You all have heard a little bit about HEART before, so I won't go too deep into it. But just as a reminder, we are an interagency collaborative program. So when we first started, the intention was to build relationships with stakeholders and those experiencing homelessness throughout the city and do it in a way that we can meet people where they were at, right? And as a part of that, we work closely with other agencies, including United Way, Miracle Hill, Hope Ministries, amongst many others. And we created this team that initially was just one time a week. We went out and did outreach. We've grown to have 2 more team members. Steve and April would love if y'all waved your hands real quick. They are our HEART community resource coordinators, and they do outreach full time every single weekday. We are talking about changing some of the hours and focusing some of our energy downtown as we're seeing an increase there. But again, they are very intentional about meeting people where they're at, connecting people to the services that they need, and then coordinating with other partners to see what we can do to assist and connect the dots as we're looking at addressing these gaps that we're seeing with those experiencing homelessness. Some of the data that you all see up here, and this is also on the slides that you guys have in your hand, I wanted to point out a couple of items. The numbers here are slightly underreported just because of the past couple of years. We didn't have enough capacity to maintain some of the numbers, but we've been doing amazing, especially since April and Stephen have come onto our team. I wanted to point out a statistic here that speaks to some of what we have heard from community members. The majority of individuals that we do work with and invest our time and funds into are Spartanburg County residents and South Carolinians at the least. We have worked with individuals that come from out of state. I believe even one individual that was out of country. But the majority, again, are within this county and were formerly housed in our community, so our neighbors. The service summary there is what we currently have, how we've been able to house people, who's in shelter, who's in rehab. Those numbers are constantly changing and shifting based on who's able to take this next step forward to get housing or shelter and who might, occasionally need more assistance to continue follow through. But we continue to encourage people to reach out to us with the contact information above. That goes to every single person on our team on HEART. It includes members of law enforcement that are a part of this work. And so that helps us track who we are working with, but also document where we're seeing instances of homelessness around downtown as we look at this work. So some other programs, again, some of this you guys are already aware of. We have the Litter Hero program, which is a 90-day workforce program, Homeless Court, which is housed within our city municipal court. And I wanted to briefly touch on the rapid rehousing program here. We have never spoken to that before, titled Opening Doors, courtesy of Beth. We were awarded $82,000 in December to help provide rapid rehousing. That is essentially a transitional program that helps families become financially stable and independent, living in their own homes. That we help support through the funds, and the funds are weaned off as you support their rent. And so we are the only new grant program in South Carolina that was awarded, and this is partially because of the shift that happened with the Opportunity Hub. Once they closed, their funds were potentially going to be lost, and those were monies that were being invested in Spartanburg families and residents. So we didn't want to lose that, and with Beth's leadership on the team, we were able to retain those funds and gain another $89,000 for the upcoming round to support the same program. So pulling a little bit back from that to a broader approach, right? We have our new Downtown Ambassador program. All 4 of them are wearing bright blue over there in the back. Amazing teammates, and it is led under our Public Works Department by Jeff Tillerson. The goal is really to create a clean, safe, and welcoming downtown, right? So they are our eyes and ears on the street, making sure that we are connected interdepartmentally, and making sure that individuals downtown know where they're going, can get assistance if need be, know what events are happening, and also there is support around aesthetic detail. So I'm sure some of y'all have seen our teammates picking up litter around downtown. So really an encompassing, broad approach that not only addresses some of what we see with homelessness, but other issues that might come up downtown, and also just to create a more welcoming environment, right? They will be our ambassadors speaking to the things that are happening. We have been taking data from that. Public Works uses a system called Mobile 311. So they document everything that they see within that system. And we pulled out from that instances that related to homelessness downtown. So throughout the month of February, which is when they started, there were 27 different instances, so over the 28 days, where they found personal belongings of individuals, whether that be in the garages or in somewhere within a business area, and those were things that were addressed. They also found 3 people sleeping in several instances, and this does not include the numbers that we have from police. March, there were 12 instances of personal property being found, and then 14 individuals found sleeping. Again, these are things that are really helpful for us because it helps us track, but also they are coordinating with Jeff and the rest of our departments, right? Special events, the HEART team, Public Works. If there is something that needs to be addressed, that is triaged to us so that we can more quickly respond. And a lot of the locations that we see this, again, Dunbar Garage, Magnolia Garage, and those are things, again, we have documented, and so we are adjusting the strategies that we're taking downtown. I'll let Lieutenant McClure speak a little bit to that from the police side, but we are investing more energy around some of these areas. So I'll go ahead and shift over to Lieutenant McClure to speak to some of the public safety aspects.
Good evening. Just a couple of little things. I'm going to deviate from the slides a little bit also, so bear with me. It's very hard for me to stand behind this podium, so if I move around, just deal with it. Deal with me for a second, because it's hard for me to stand still. Just a couple of things. You see the numbers. We actually pulled some numbers going back 4 years. Homeless involved calls. I will say, kind of take some of those numbers with a grain of salt. The reason being is that we have really changed some of our reporting about homelessness when we deal with people. In the past, we kind of always had to put like last known address into our system, so it may not show up that they were homeless. We've kind of changed some of that, not trying to put anybody on the spot, of course, but just so us to be able to identify those individuals easier and get them to the resources if they need that. We do have 4 downtown officers that are assigned permanently to downtown, 2 of which here, my teams usually wear the blue uniform. Officer Peeler, some of y'all recognize he's been downtown for a while. Officer Quattlebaum's kind of new. I've learned a lot of people call him Officer Q because they struggle with Quattlebaum, so he's good with that. Also, Officer Sissick, that's been around a little bit, and Officer Shimko. They're not here today. Of course, Peeler and Sissick's been doing this for a little bit, so they've got those contacts. Officer Shimko and Quattlebaum, again, they're new to the unit, but I can tell you, even if he wasn't sitting here, they both get it. They understand what downtown is supposed to be. They understand what our goal is and what our overall goal is. So I think just having the right people in that position is going to help. Again, it's going to take a little bit of time. We do have a third-party security company that I'll just say we're in discussions on how to improve that service that they are providing us. Just recently, we met with them a week or so ago. They're going to install some key tags that's going to help with some accountability to make sure they're checking areas that they're supposed to be checking. There's been some change of hours also to kind of address some of that early morning hours when people are coming in to work and such. I will also say on the numbers that we do, it looks like, again, that we have an increase in homeless interactions, which we do. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. And again, please understand I'm a police officer, so I don't know the sociology of all this stuff. But some of it is our reporting. Some of it is the fact that we do have a growing homeless population. There's no way around that. That's a nationwide trend. It's not, specific to Spartanburg. The other problem that we are looking at from a law enforcement perspective is a lot of these, the homeless individuals that were outside of the downtown footprint have kind of migrated into downtown. Part of that is, again, this is my personal opinion, they're going from, like just today, I'm trying not to get too off subject, but just today, I went out, me and Officer Peeler and Quattlebaum went out behind the Dollar General in WO where we've had the homeless encampment for a while. I don't know. I can just guess by the number of tents, and there's at least 20 people who are living there. The police, we're put in a very difficult situation because obviously we've got to respect the rights of the property owners who don't want people trespassing on their property. But at the same time, when those people are displaced and they have nowhere to go, then it appears that a lot of them are moving into the downtown. I think you think about what we have available downtown. We have public areas, we have public parks, we have public spaces that we can't just trespass people from and make them move along. There's more businesses around. There's a lot of people that businesses are being gracious, but they're providing food, they're providing restroom breaks. So more people are coming into that area, which again, when you look at it on the surface, it looks like we just have an influx of people. And part of it is we do, and part of it is they're going where the public areas are. So we're in a sticky situation, so to speak, because I'm not going to work for a place that criminalizes homelessness. I don't want to do that. But again, like I said, we do have the property owners who have a right to have their property not trespassed on. So we have a couple of tasks that we have done. Again, I'm not picking at these two just because they're in there, but it tends to be my less busy days are on Monday and Tuesday, so we can get out and do more things. But we went to some of these areas that are posted no trespassing. And at the point we're trying to encourage people, they can't be there. But part of with our internal team, our law enforcement, and we're not giving up on that. Don't take that the wrong way. We're not saying that we're not going to outreach, and we are still involved in that. But we have kind of switched our opinion a little bit on the ones that are violating the law, the ones that are trespassing, the ones that are, stealing stuff from businesses. We're taking a definitely more, I think, I don't like the term aggressive policing because it's not, but more of an assertive policing. We're getting to the point to where people are going to jail that need to go. Again, the ones that need help, we're definitely pointing them in the right direction. But as a quote I've been saying lately, unfortunately, we're looking at a 3 or 4 hour solution to a lifetime problem. And we can put them in jail. Unfortunately, our Spartanburg County Jail is filled with people that deserve to be there more than somebody trespassing, for lack of a better term. So the jail is processing people out pretty much immediately. They're in there for maybe 2 hours, and then they find their way back downtown because of the public spaces. So our stakeholders, we get a lot from our stakeholders downtown that says we're not doing anything. And in reality, we could have arrested that person 4 hours ago and they're already right back. But again, if somebody's on the property, again, we're going to deal with that. We're just trying to be a little bit more assertive in our enforcement efforts on what we can do. And I know Asheville. People that have talked to me, they get tired of hearing me talk about Asheville. But Asheville, a few months ago, they did a homeless task force, basically, and they went out and they arrested people for the most petty thing you could find. And I know that they had some conversations. They were getting some of the same backlash from their businesses that nothing was being done. And again, on surface, that's fine. The problem that I have with it is they made like a press release and put all the people on like a mugshot like it was a big drug roundup, and I thought that was a little overboard for a homeless situation. But we did back in January, I made a little task force that we went out, and unfortunately it wasn't the most productive because it was about 28 degrees that day. I know because it was cold. But the goal of that was, first and foremost, we would go out, make sure nobody had any warrants, they weren't trespassing. If everything was good, then we would switch into the outreach. Do you need assistance? We got them in touch or told them where they could go to be in touch with the HEART team. The HEART team was on standby. We didn't call them that night because, again, there wasn't a lot of people out. But the ones that we did talk to, we pointed them to where the food giveaways were, things of that nature. So we tried to take a two-sided approach to that. We would do the enforcement, but we also had the outreach. We're looking at doing that again soon. We're going to try it. We did it in the evening hours. I think we're going to kind of change on the next one to do it in the morning. But again, it's going to be we don't want to harass people. We don't want to be in that situation. But we know that there are issues being caused out there. We know that there are people with warrants, and we know that people are trespassing. So we are working on that. This is just a graph that's put together to kind of show the steady line that there is an increase in homeless contacts. Again, I just want to stress I'm not trying to wiggle around numbers, but again, there are reasons for that increase outside of just more homeless people or that we're not doing anything. We have several camps that have been closed down. And the one, during that task force that I was talking about in January, I spoke with a gentleman. I don't remember his name off the top of my head right now. But I had never come in contact, never seen him before. Of course, they come in, close down that camp. And at least 3 times since then, I've seen him walking around downtown. Now, again, he's one of those that we're trying to push towards getting help because he's not causing any problems. But we have another example. We're trying really hard to address the issue around the soup kitchen because there's a lot of businesses there that, quite frankly, are kind of tired of the activity that is happening in their location. And I'm not going to lie. Again, I'm an honest person. Those that don't know me, I'm not going to lie. It's tough sometimes because you go up and tell somebody, hey, you can't be here. And we get the response is, well, where are we supposed to go? And unfortunately, from the police side, again, we can't solve the problems. Our response is, unfortunately, I don't really know where to tell you to go, but you can't be on somebody else's property. So it's tough, and it's a tough position for us to be in. But I'm going to circle back one more time. We got to respect the property owners that don't want these people on there, and unfortunately are leaving stuff that the businesses are having to clean up. And so we're going to have to, and we literally have a plan to address that in the coming days, or try to address that. Okay, I think that's me.
That last slide was contact with homeless individuals.
So those were all calls to service that included homeless individuals, like noted in the call that was made to law enforcement.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And part of that is too, we've been encouraging more people to call non-emergency so we can properly document some of those numbers. So I do want to reiterate McClure's point. It is a challenge that we can't do alone. I think we've said that a lot, and I think for us, we are doing our best as a city team to respond to our community members, and law enforcement is a part of the internal homeless task force, right? We're all on the same page doing this. We had a lot of questions initially from certain individuals of like, are we being compassionate in doing this and worrying about the arrest? And part of the conversation that we had as an internal team that, we have very compassionate teammates, including those that are on HEART, including those on law enforcement that ask what do we do? Where do we tell these people to go next? And we can't answer all of the questions, but I can say that we are all on the same page as it relates to this strategy, right? Our goal is to create the culture that we want within our downtown and within our city, and this is just a part of creating that culture of what is acceptable and what's not. So as it relates to some of the trends, this is some of the things that I tried to summarize in conversations that we've had with stakeholders, as well as things that we've noted from our internal team. Overall needs, so again, speaking to the data point that we had earlier, most of the individuals that we work with that experience homelessness are actually from Spartanburg County, born and raised. There is a general increase in the documented individuals from out of town. That is something that we do acknowledge, but there is no clear proof or correlation of any strategy that other cities are taking to send them here. So that a lot of times people that we engage or tell us that they're just transient, this just happened to be their stop, or they missed a bus. So there's a lot of narratives around that, but again, no clear correlation. Our staff does note that there does need to be an ongoing need for education, awareness, and advocacy around this challenge, as well as other community agencies. This is something that's a community challenge, and so we continue to push for awareness of our programs, but also awareness of some of the ways that you can get involved, or just things that you can do to help navigate things that our team can help do better. And then again, I'm sure all of y'all have spoken to this before as well, the need for shelter, right? The need for a space where individuals can go and get the resources they need in one spot is a need, as well as behavioral health, increased outreach, and things like that. So just speaking to the ongoing work and conversation, we really do hope to do more things that provide tools for our community members to feel that they can better be empowered to advocate for some of these things. There have been several stakeholders that have reached out and said, you know, is there a tool? Like, is there something that we can hand our employees to really, you know, help them navigate through a situation that they might feel unsure about? So that's something that we're looking at creating in partnership with our other task force members externally. And then ongoing alignment is huge for us. That's part of the reason why we did the internal task force, to align our city staff, but also make sure our internal staff is aligned with our external community, because we all are within different realms of work, and that helps us better serve the community. And then just briefly to McClure's point earlier, there is a general trend of increased homelessness across the country. There are a couple of more notes that you guys should have in your packets as to trends and things that I have heard and seen in engaging other cities. We've called other cities, we've tried to meet with other cities. All of these programs that we've started were actually in reference to things that other cities are doing well. And you know, there's no city that's been able to truly solve or address this yet, right? There's increases all across the country, same challenges popping up, not enough housing, shelter, certain resources around mental health and behavioral health. So I would say that I am constantly amazed in the investment that our team puts into this work and this community, right? The mayor always says we invest in people. We're really good at investing in people, and I think that this is a testament to how we truly care. Most of these programs were created within the past 4 years, right? And that says a lot. I want to end briefly on the broader strategy that this ties to. Again, we can't do this work alone, so I won't speak too much to this because you all will probably get a full presentation from the external task force leadership group that includes United Way, Spartanburg Housing, One Spartanburg Inc., the city, the county, and Spartanburg Regional. I always forget one, so I wrote it down. But these are all partners that have invested in this process to really hone down on our priorities and be effective in creating some shifts in our environment and aligning some of the work that we're doing across the whole county. There's so many people investing in this, but we're not all truly aligned to create impact yet, so that's our goal. I want to shift after this slide to speaking on some of the impact that I just said earlier. Some of this stuff, you know, we can look at the numbers, we can get the calls, and it's hard to sort of quantify the impact of some of these things. I actually asked a few of our teammates that were formerly homeless that have gone through some of these programs to see if they would be interested in sharing some of their stories. So I wanted to have Ben Rains, John Berkeley, Ken Konke, one at a time, and April Nations, who are all employed as city employees now, that are on our team, and really have them share a bit of their story and experience before finishing up the presentation. So Ben.
Hello, I'm Benjamin Rains. I want to thank you for allowing me the time, Mr. Mayor and council members. I found it humbling that I've written these words in the very office where I made the decision to pursue genuine life change, now as a counselor, where I was first the client. Those who will also speak today alongside myself serve as proof that it takes a village to cultivate transformation, requiring the support of an entire community. From a young age, I faced numerous medical challenges that exposed me to anesthetic and addictive prescription drugs. As I navigated throughout my teen years, poor decisions led me down the path of alcoholism. During the onset of the COVID pandemic, I had a cat bite infection land me into the hospital. Upon discharge, I found myself dependent on opiates, falling farther into alcoholism and addiction. By March of 2021, I was not only homeless, but an alcoholic at the same time. My journey towards redemption began when I arrived at Miracle Hill on April the 2nd of 2021, seeking refuge and a chance for a new beginning. The first 96 hours were difficult through detox and mental health issues like alcoholic psychosis, keeping me from being unable to sleep. However, it was through the unwavering support of programs like Miracle Hill and Hope in partnership with the city that I found success and transformation. 6 months of intense recovery classes and spiritual rehabilitation laid the foundation for transformation and even reconciliation with my family. Graduation from the Hope program, and then I went into an internship at Miracle Hill. I'd like to personally thank you, Mr. Mayor. At a Hope graduation, you introduced yourself, shook my hand, and stated that you were proud of my recovery. This expression of edification meant the world to me. It really did. In April of 2022, the City of Spartanburg extended an opportunity by offering a position within the Parks and Recreation Department. The city had just formed their ambassadors program, and my mentors encouraged me to apply. The city considered whether they were willing to put belief in their affiliate programs, which they have. The willingness to extend this chance has given me the desire to work diligently in the city, helping wherever I'm needed, with deserved loyalty to my hometown. I still work with Parks and Recreation part-time. I work full-time as a counselor and kitchen manager for Miracle Hill since September of 2022, and I now attend online university as a full-time student working towards a master's in nonprofit management and cross-cultural ministry. None of these achievements would have been possible without the support and collaborative efforts of the City of Spartanburg and its dedicated partner programs. The success of the city is not only evident in my own life, but also in the transformation occurring throughout. Through the work of the HEART program, Miracle Hill, the Hope program, our dedicated law enforcement officers and others, I've seen a significant reduction in the amount of litter within our parks as I work. In closing, I want to express that I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my story with you today. As we continue to work together towards a brighter future, let us remember that the true transformation is only possible when we come together as a village to cultivate it. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, man.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is John Berkeley. In 2021, I was working a dead-end job, hopping from hotel to hotel, drinking and drugging to mask my depression. I finally gave up and I found my way to Miracle Hill. My life began to change. I was feeling sober. I'm feeling clean and sober and felt good. I was working programs at Miracle Hill when I found out a program that was in partnership with the City of Spartanburg and Miracle Hill. Miracle Hill. It was called the Litter Hero. It was a gig that was part-time. It got me back into the workforce. After that, I worked for Spartanburg County Environmental Enforcement with Litter Crew. In March 23, I made the switch to the city and landed a job at the City of Spartanburg Public Works. A few months later, I became a proud member of the City of Spartanburg. This job that has been given to me. I interact with a lot of the homeless people. Our job has changed since the ambassadors are cleaning up now. My quarter to clean up in the morning, we pick up litter. I go back down by Dunbar, the bus stop and all that. So I was interacting with a lot of the homeless people. And I still do that today because I'm all over the city, downtown. And I try to push hope with them, push places, push ideas, things that they could get into to help them out of homelessness. It's just in my heart. I love these people on the streets. And they're people like us. I say hello to them. You don't know what that might mean to them. So, yeah, the Little Hero got me to where I am. But I am with the city, and I am grateful for that job. Thank you.
John, if I will say, John, you said the job was given to you. You earned that job, brother, from what you did. All right, thank you, man. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Kenneth Konecki, and I'm proud to say I work for the City of Spartanburg as a downtown ambassador. I'm proud to say that because of my job, part of my job is to point members of the homeless community to the same people that helped me through my ordeal of being homeless, and that's the Heart Team. About 5 months ago, I found myself out of work and unable to pay my rents. While living on the street, a police officer told me to see April Nations from the Heart Team, that April could help me with housing and other resources, excuse me. When I met April, I felt comfortable admitting to needing help because she started off the conversation with her own story of how she was homeless and how she stayed at the same shelter that she was now sending me at Miracle Hill. Because April knew firsthand how residents at Miracle Hill can be to live with, she offered sound advice on how to go about my stay there that proved to be very helpful. She also gave me constant words of encouragement when I reached out to her while struggling to put the pieces of my life back together. While I was in this sort of frantic phase, April spent a long time navigating the New York DMV website to figure out how much I owed, and also how to pay New York in order to get my license back. This was a task that DMV themselves could not do because their systems were down. How April got this information from New York DMV is still a mystery to me, and as you may know, City of Spartanburg employees are required to have a license in order to work for the city. She's literally the reason why I was able to reach the requirements to apply for the city job I have today. I've been in Spartanburg for over a year now and very happy to call Spartanburg my home. My very first day being homeless in Spartanburg, I met a woman walking around Barnett Park handing out lunch bags. A few days later, while at First Presbyterian Church dinner, I met Beth from the Heart Team, who was there with her laptop helping the homeless community. Later that week, Marilyn from the Heart Team and a police officer were walking around speaking to the homeless, asking what their needs were. I found all of this to be very pleasant and comforting surprise, knowing that the city has not forgotten about the homeless, but is proactively seeking them out to assist them instead of waiting for the homeless community to come to them. My experience coming from homelessness to working for the city and living on my own now is a result of organizations like the Heart Team that has dedicated time, money, and effort, a lot of effort, to providing a path of success to people that are struggling. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, and thank you for your time, Mayor and members of council. My name is April Nations. I have overcome homelessness thanks to the City of Spartanburg, and this is my story. At any given time, a single mother in the United States is one significant life event away from being homeless. I became a single mother at the age of 25 due to severe domestic violence. My son was 15 months old at the time, and my daughter was 3 months old. I've always worked, and I've always been successful at anything that I put my hand to. At 37 years old, I was bringing in a six-figure income and was traveling all over the country for my employer. We were living in Blacksburg at the time with my partner. We had been having some issues, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. He cleaned out our joint account and decided to end the relationship. The house that we were living in belonged to him, and I came home from work and all of our things were packed and sitting in the yard, along with both my children, who were 10 and 11 at the time. I had nothing to show for 6 years of labor and savings, and because he was also an account holder, there was no legal recourse for the money that was gone, even though he had not been working. At 37 years old, with a 10-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son, I became homeless for the first time. There were no shelters that would accept us because my son was over the age limit for all of them. It was suggested to me that I leave my son with a friend and take my daughter and go to the shelter. I could not. My children were taken into DSS custody. 6 months later, COVID struck and the entire world shut down. With no family to speak of, I found myself on the brink of drowning every day. There were no resources in Blacksburg, so I decided to go back to my hometown in North Carolina, hoping that my family would lend a hand. I knew better when I left, but I was out of options. I stayed there for a year on the streets or in my car. At some point, I started looking for options elsewhere because I could not find a solution where I was. I heard about a transitional housing program in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I called, expecting to be denied. They accepted me immediately and told me to be here the next day. This is where my journey began. That program was not a good fit for me, but once I was here, I realized that there were other options. So I took the stepping stone that I was offered and I moved on to the next steps as they presented themselves. The first thing that I did when I got here was I went to the Opportunity Center with a friend that I had met when I arrived. A staff member there completed a housing survey for me, and I didn't even know that I was applying for something. I was able to keep a safe roof over my head consistently enough to work again, and there were lots of jobs to choose from, so I worked. It was the one thing that I knew that I could do well. My children were in a foster home in Anderson, South Carolina at the time and had been for 18 months. Just when I started to get discouraged, about 90 days after I walked into the Opportunity Center, my phone rang. I had been chosen to receive rapid rehousing funds and support to restabilize through the SPIN program. This assistance stabilized me in my own apartment where I still live today. It enabled me within 6 months of arriving in Spartanburg to be reunited with my children. I enrolled in college and am studying to receive my bachelor's in counseling. I have a year of school left and I intend to get my master's in social work after that. Now I work for the City of Spartanburg on the homeless engagement and response team, and I have the unique honor of being a living beacon of hope for people who are in the same situation that I was in, thanks to the tireless efforts of SPIN and the United Way and the City of Spartanburg, who supported me every step of the way. There were challenges left and right. Nothing is easy, but they were there every time I wanted to fall, and they still are there every time I stumble. I'm so grateful to be a part of this community, and I didn't write all that stuff down, but thank you for letting me be part of this community and this team. It has changed everything about my life and the life of my family.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. And thank you guys for giving space for that. I mean, this work is transformational, right? We're changing people's lives. And so it's hard to quantify that in some of the numbers that we showed. So thank you for our teammates for being a part of the city team, but also for being willing to share. I told them, if you do not want to do this, you do not got to do this. And they all said, we want to do it because this has really impacted our lives as individuals. And thank you as members and leaders in our community for allowing us to do this work and caring, being advocates and pushing us as staff. But also thank you to leadership for investing in this process as well. There's no doubt in the care that we have in our people, and it's amazing.